And there are growing concerns from stakeholders over the multifaceted security challenges facing the country. And even now, there are reactions trailing the recent directive by the Nigeria Broadcasting Commission containing a sweeping order banning journalists and broadcast stations from reporting details of terrorist attacks and victims across the country, with the recent reaction being that of SERAP asking the president to instruct NBC to withdraw the directive. Recall that NBC had in a letter issued a directive asking journalists, television and radio stations in Nigeria to stop glamorizing and giving too many details on the nefarious activities of terrorists and kidnappers during their daily newspaper reviews. NBC called for caution by broadcasters while reporting security challenges in the country. And joining me to discuss more on this issue is a veteran journalist and author, Richard Akinola. Good to have you join us, Richard Akinola.
Yes.
So this is not the first time this kind of letter will be directed to or sent to broadcast stations across the country. We've seen some talking about caution when it comes to reporting on politics, caution when it comes to reporting on agitations. But this one was very specific as to not giving details of on victims and kidnapping activities. What do you make of this directive? And do you think that the media has a track record of giving out details that could adversely affect or have an effect on the activities of security agencies?
The directive is very embarrassing, and I find it quite obnoxious that in the 21st century, that a regulatory body like NBC, I mean, obviously with the imprimatur or the Ministry of Information, will be issuing this kind of directive. I mean, it's quite embarrassing. No. Let's look at it this way. If broadcast stations were to follow this directive to the letter, then they shouldn't have even given coverage to your story, the story you heard earlier, in respect of the pilot Bayomi that escaped from the bandits, when his his plane was shut down. Because if such directive had to be obeyed to the letter, then no broadcast station ought to have even given any publicity to that press statement by the Air Force. So it's a two-edged sword. It doesn't make any sense because it's part of the subtle attempt to regulate the media by force. And having not succeeded with the terrible suggestions in terms of the amendment to the Nigerian Broadcasting Act that the Ministry of Information proposed in the public clearing, and with the hoopla by the media, which has not been suspended. Now, surreptitiously, they are coming out and they'll start giving this kind of foreign directive. It doesn't make any sense because this is the same government, the same ministry that will make sure that the same broadcast stations will air the meetings of Sheikh Gumi with terrorists in their camp. The government doesn't see anything wrong in that. But when independently you report issues, then you try to, censor what the problem is. It doesn't make any sense. And of course...
let me jump in here because you're raising a very key point about whether, what we can report and cannot report. But I want to touch on something you said earlier and connect it with what you just said, that not expecting the media to follow this directive. Because we also know that when it comes to reporting, we also take some level of criticisms from Nigerians. Nigerians will tell you, the media is not doing enough in terms of reporting these security challenges, that sometimes we're blamed for being complicit and working with the government, even when you're trying to be objective. And then, you have a letter like this that you have to follow, but it is kind of ambiguous. There is no specific directive as to or example. So what implication does this have on the journalists and the broadcasters who, at this point, you have to follow it. You don't want a sledgehammer to come on you, but you don't also want to face criticisms from Nigerians.
It's like a catch-22 situation. And there's lots of psychological assault on journalists when handling stories of this nature. Okay, so for example, a week ago, I was glued for this to SABC and Newsroom Africa and a South African TV station. Broadcasting live about the riots and the looting in South Africa. for hours at different parts of South Africa. And you could see how balanced and how, everybody yearning for information would tune to those stations. And that's how it's supposed to be. No government was bringing down the neck of SABC or Newsroom Africa. But here we are in a country where it was the military government that actually liberalized broadcast business in Nigeria when the Babangida government gave Ray Power the first license. Now, a democratic government is the one trying to clamp on the same rights which the military gave. It's embarrassing. That's why I said it's embarrassing. So I have said earlier, a few days ago, that look, this directive should just be ignored. Follow your professional instincts and do what you think is right. Because if you begin to, look over your shoulders to report, things, then you eventually will not to report anything again. So, and as you said, in one hand, you have the members of the public thinking that the media is complicit, that they are not reporting as they ought to have reported. Then you have a government bringing down the neck of broadcast stations. So, but I just believe that broadcast stations should just follow their instincts, their professional ethics, and report the way it's supposed to report. Because it doesn't make, look for example, when Channels was fined 5 million naira for interviewing the spokesperson of IPOB, but the same government, the same NBC, did not see anything wrong in broadcast stations airing the some of the things that Sheikh Gumi will say. He will go and meet terrorists in their camps, and they didn't say anything wrong with that. So it's all this double standard that is part of their subtle dictatorship.
I guess people will say, sorry to interrupt you, but I guess people will say perhaps it is time for maybe the broadcast stations, the print, the newspapers to now have a meeting with the federal government, probably forge a way forward so there can be a clear direction. But I wish we'd have time for you to comment on that, but I'm told that my time is up. Thank you so much for talking to us. Veteran journalist and author Richard Akinola.